Thank you for joining us today in OEM. This is Pete McGilvery, the Office of Environmental Management. I'm the Quality and Performance Administrator. I'm joined today by Bill Beers as well as Katasha Cornwell. We're going to discuss the minor edits enhancements. What you're going to see today, you guys are already doing. Everybody's already working through a minor edits process, so you're just going to see a couple of enhancements to kind of move that piece along. So I'll go through some of the logistics. Just as a reminder to folks that are connecting, you guys are all on mute. You've got the ability to put in your questions. You've got the chat box. The other thing I would suggest is we want to make sure everyone who is in attendance does get credit for attending the meeting. So if you could, within the chat box, go ahead and write down who's attending from your location if there are multiple folks. If it's just you, don't worry about it. We know you're connected, but if you've got multiple folks connecting from your location, let us know within the chat. And then, of course, with any one of these trainings that we provide, there's, everybody's got lots of things going on. So we go out of our way to make sure we record the training and we make it accessible. So if your day was a little hectic and busy and you couldn't either show up on time or attend at all, no worries at all, because we're recording the session, and at some point later you can log in, review the materials, and see how it all works again. We'll put it on our EMO website. You'll see the link up there. And as well as that, we'll send out email notifications to everyone to know that it's available. So let's talk about the process and why we're kind of here. We're here to talk about the minor edits process. And I think one of the big things to kind of talk about when we're thinking about context is that minor edits means that we're in the same approval process. That means the clock does not stop, that we're all working on the same timeline, versus if there was something that required some additional coordination and review and didn't look like it could be completed in the minor process, it's physically returned, and a physical return actually starts the review and approval process over from scratch. But there's lots of times where everybody works together collectively. We're all trying to make the best documents that we possibly can, but new eyes see new things, and there might be some things that require clarifications or some minor updates. And so to handle that, we have this minor edits process where we can work collectively and say, hey, we're still on the exact approval timeline. We've got some things that need to be worked out. Can you make these slight modifications? And if you can make these slight modifications within the existing timeline, we'll stay on our approval process, make those changes, we'll look at them, and then we'll continue forward. So kind of looking at that, you've drafted your documents, you've identified some minor edits, some editorial corrections, some things that just need some clarification, items like that. It gets sent back to the district team or to the reviewer for some clarifications. Like everything else within SWEP, there are email notifications to let everybody know throughout the process, hey, this is in minor edits, hey, you need to work on this. And what we do with all the various email notifications is someone is provided an action and others are copied on the request to make sure everybody's on board with what's happening. The district then works on the request, as you guys have been today, and then you let us know that minor edits have been complete by going in and saying minor edits complete, saving it, and then again it sends notifications back up to everybody, and the project begins exactly where it left off when the minor edits process was intended to begin. So that's kind of why we're here. You guys are all doing it and have been doing it for a while. So I think with that, we're going to go through a demo and show you some of the changes in functionality. Let me go ahead and switch over to Bill Beers, who is here to do a demo for us. And of course, Katasha is here to interject when she wants and or answer questions too. And Bill, I have just given you control. Thank you. And away you go, Bill.
Okay, thanks, Pete. I'm going to start here sort of midway through the process of a final EDS submittal for a reevaluation form. I'm logged on as an environmental process administrator, and this is the screen that she would see after it's been confirmed by the PDC. If at this point she's got any questions about it, she has well, she's got four main options here. One is everything's fine, confirm it, send it on to the next step in the approval process. Returning it for minor edits, that is going to go send that back to the district. Whatever form it is, the type 2 form or the reevaluation form that's been submitted is going to be open for you. You won't have to go through that steps in the districts to reopen it. It'll automatically put that in that mode, send you a notification letting you know that that's happened. As Pete described, it's still in the approval process, so it doesn't really change anything else other than just kind of put the ball back in the district's court to make whatever changes are requested and then mark it as minor edits complete. Just like you currently are able to do. The main thing that's different is that who is initiating that request to get it into minor edits mode. Obviously, there's the ability to return for substantial edits, ends the review cycle, and major changes are made and it's resubmitted. And this fourth option, which is we just added the ability for the EPA to send it back to the PDC so that the PDC can coordinate with the other EPA and gather all of the information together and send it back to the district. So I'll demonstrate that. You click the button, you confirm the prompt that comes up, and that's it. It's now back in the PDC's court, so I'll log out and log in as the PDC account. At this point, the PDCs, obviously, they're going to get an email notification. I can give you an example of what that looks like. This email is sent to the PDC that initially confirmed it, asking them to coordinate getting the information from the EPAs, coordinating with the district on a timeline, making sure that everybody's on the same page about what's Pete,
Well, one thing I wanted to add while you're in the middle of that thought was just because you have the email up on the screen, and some of the folks that are attending are also part of our environmental leadership team. And one of the things that kind of came up in those discussions was trying to identify ways in these various emails to know who's this email for, whose job is this. So we've started collectively on all the various email templates going in and adding some more specifics. And one of the things right at the very top you see is actions. Whose action is this email? And you've got their name right there. And you'll start to see that as being a more, as we begin to go in and update our emails, you'll start to see that more often, where based on whatever email is being generated from the site and prompting somebody to do something, we're going to go out of our way to identify that person or persons is the one handling the actions. So I just wanted to bring that up.
All right. Thanks, Pete. The screen the PDC is going to see, they're going to see at the top the notification that's letting them know that's where this is. It's back in your court. You got to do something with it. The only option at this point is to go ahead and return it for minor edits, sending it back to the district. They have the option, they have to choose a due date. Now the actual due date is going to be coordinated with the district, so make sure that everybody's agreed that whatever edits need to be made can be done in whatever selected time frame. I'm gonna give you a week. Files can be attached. So this could be a markup of the document that was submitted. It can be a list of the changes, or no attachment can be made, and comments can just be provided here. And click Submit. And at this point, a notification is going to go back to the districts, to the attention of the PM of the project, and let them know that you know, this isn't probably going to be the first that you've heard of this, but this is sort of making it official, and at this point, you can start making those changes and send it back in, you know, when you're complete. You get an email that looks like this one, I think. Yes. Here's a minor edits request email. So, you know, it's to the attention of the project manager. An overview of what needs to be done. If there was any file attached to it, that file would be linked here. If there was any comments that were added, you'd see those here. You'd also see them on the form itself. I'm going to demonstrate that again on in a different project in a different account, so we can see that happening a little bit differently. So now I should be okay. I'm now on a different server. I'm switching gears to a different project.
You're magic.
I am. Just by doing that, I am suddenly a new person. So I'm the PDC. I'm going to say I'm good with this thing. I'm going to confirm that the submittal is ready for the EPA to review, and give my comments and submit it. And log out. Oops, go back here.
So the process you just saw, just to remind folks, so you had a project in the district. It went through all your QA, your QC. You're submitting it up to the PDC to begin the approval process. That PDC, whoever it happens to be, got an email with a link, and they went in and they reviewed the materials, and they're saying, they're providing a confirmation that yes, it's ready to continue on into the process and be forwarded on. And so what you just saw Bill do was he is acting as an OEM PDC who received an email from a district asking for confirmation. He confirmed it and moved it on into the process.
Thank you. Now I'm now Katasha. Another stroke of magic. I am now Katasha. Now you can see we're on a different server here. That option to send it back to the PDC isn't up to this stage yet. So that enhancement was on it's still making its way up. But again, the EPA or the PDC can just directly do this return for minor edits. I'm going to say you have till the 9th. I'm going to choose a markup file. And submit it. And this time it's coming from the EPA, but it's no different. You're going to get the same kind of email, the same you know, as far as SWEPT is concerned, the same process is going to be followed.
And I think overall, I think that the first process you saw is the process that's going to be handling here in the department, right? I think by process, Margie and Katasha have their project delivery coordinators. They're the conduit between our office and the district, and they're the ones that are going to take the lead on gathering any comments, pulling it together, coordinating with the district, working on, you know, what the minor edits timeline should be. Is this 2 days? Is it 3 days? Is it 5 days? You know, is it more? Do we need to go a different route? But it's good. It will be coming through the PDCs for the most part. I don't know if Katasha, you want to add on that a little bit.
That's correct. That's our intention, is that we're coordinating with them and letting them handle the most of that communication. So.
Yeah, perfect. I don't know if you had anything else to show, did you?
I wanted to show what the districts are going to see.
That sounds great. The people on the line would like to see that as well.
So here's an example of the email that's gonna come. The comments that were entered. There will be a link to the file that's attached if one's attached in the email, and a link back to the reevaluation form itself. I have to switch gears here and be a district user. So the district user, when they go back to their reevaluation form or the type 2 form, that was submitted in this process, they're going to see this big notice up at the top, letting you know that OEM has requested minor edits to be performed on this. Who requested it, when we're all agreeing that the due edits will be completed by, comments, and a link to the file that was attached to that request. And so that file may have may have markup directly within it. This is, I chose the wrong file to attach to it, but you get the idea that it could just be a PDF of the document with the spots that need to be done, or it might be a completely separate document listing out a summary of what needs to change.
Yeah, so I mean, let's think about where we are in the process. So when are you doing the minor edits process when it involves OEM? You may be doing the minor edits process in your district as you're going through your own internal QA/QC, where you've got project editors and you've got the project manager taking the lead, and the environmental manager may see some things that need to be corrected and they can ask for corrections. All that minor edits process is your process happening internally with yourselves. But it has gotten to a point where you're ready to go through the request for approval process, right? You've done a lot of work. You've been in ERC already. You've coordinated all those responses. You've got this fantastic document, and everybody involved says, yep, you know what? We've got a document ready to go through the approval process. And then as it moves, now you've got a couple other folks that the whole point of their job is to provide consistency in the review of the projects, and they haven't been involved necessarily on the day-to-day stuff, and they may see things slightly different than someone who has been heavily involved with the day-to-day aspect of every inch of the project as it moves along, and they may read things in a slightly different way. So you may get requests for clarifications or updates and things like that. And so it's during that request for approval process where this minor edits piece is occurring. And it's to keep everybody moving along on the same timeline. I know several districts are actively in this process right now today as we're delivering this training. So it's long after ERC, you're in the request for approval and kind of dealing with it at that stage.
Right. So you guys are probably fairly familiar with the timelines that we have once you guys do submit to OEM for final approval. And it's just trying to set that expectation of, there are a few things that need to be addressed. We want to make sure that we're still able to meet our time frames, which is the point of having that, edits requested by date or whatever. So that's, again, where we're going to double check with you guys ahead of time to kind of say, hey, if we give you a week, if we give you 3 days, depending on how drastic those edits are or how much time we kind of have to get to that point, we want to make sure that that's a doable thing. So that's kind of part of this process, is to make sure we stay on the same timeline and be able to keep all of ourselves in check on getting it done.
Yeah, and kind of just following up on that. So there's a couple other emails that also get generated. So if everybody agrees, I get this done in 5 days. 24 hours before that, on day 4, there'll be an email that says, well, first it's smart enough to look in the database and say, did they send this project back with minor edits complete? If minor edits are complete within the timeline, nobody's getting any kind of emails. If on day 4 of 5, the project still is in minor edits, there'll be a prompt reminder that says, hey, by the way, don't forget, minor edits is going to be over in the next day or so. Please make sure you submit them, to let everybody know. If at the end of day 5, now you get to day 6, there'll be an email that goes to everybody and says, hey, the due date for these minor edits has passed. There's nothing that automatically happens, okay? The project doesn't get pushed back. Nothing happens. It's purely informational, and it lets the people working on the project, working the process, make an intelligent decision on how they want to proceed from there. Have they been in coordination with folks and they think they can wait one more day for the minor edits, or, we haven't been talking to anybody, the day has passed and my days are getting short, what are we going to do? It's kind of thinking through uniquely on this project, how do we want to handle it, and then responding accordingly. So there's emails that kind of remind folks of the various things we're working on, and there's some prompts to say, hey, revisit this project and make a decision as well. But nothing automatically changes one way or the other.
This is an example of the email that reminder email that comes as that due date is approaching, and letting you know when it's due. Another window I've got here I have too many windows, so hold on a second. Find that. And here's an example after that due, let's say we're on May 2nd, so this email would have arrived early that morning, letting you know that you're past due. But as Pete said, nothing happens, automatically. SWEP doesn't automatically reject this or anything like that. It's just informational.
Exactly.
And last thing I want to demonstrate is how you get out of this state. And this is pretty familiar to you, anybody who's done the minor edits. It's the same controls down here at the bottom, whether you start the minor edits or whether OEM requests the minor edits. Either way, you're going to see the same options here, where you can save it as a draft. It's not really changing anything. It's just staying in this reopened state. No notifications are going to be sent. You're not changing the state of it. It's just, if it takes you more than one session to get those changes done, choose that option. If you're done with minor edits and they're not substantive changes and you don't think it needs to be reapproved by the district management and all the way and resubmitted and all that, you choose minor edits complete. If at the end of all of this you realize that these are substantial changes and your district environmental manager wants to reapprove that and go through resubmitting it, then you choose that third option there. I'm going to do the minor edits complete, click save, and that's it. It is now back up to wherever it came from. So if that request for minor edits to be completed was done by the PDC right when she first got it, and first thing she noticed something needs to be corrected and sends it back before forwarding it to the EPA, so that's going to come back into that PDC's inbox. If it was the minor edit request came from the EPA, whether they did it directly or more likely asking the PDC to coordinate it, it still comes back to the EPA.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of touch on, Bill, a little bit about that save option. So one practice that we've seen that's worked really well with the district and the PDC is before they send it back is oftentimes if the comments aren't necessarily just super simple little edits, it's good for that district person, project manager, to maybe send a quick email or call their PDC and say, hey, I've saved my revisions in SWEP. Do you want to take a quick look at them, see if they're addressing the comments as you think that they should be? And then they can go back in and they can do the sending it back step. That way, there's no kind of miscommunication and having to reopen it a second time if those comments weren't addressed. It's not a requirement, but it's a good practice.
Yeah, good.
So, and then I also did want to say that if you aren't, like Pete kind of talked about, if you aren't in communication with your PDC or Margie or myself as we get to the point where we're getting that email saying you're past due, then, things are going to be critical and you're probably going to be getting a phone call from your PDC. So if you're getting to the point where you're feeling like you're just not going to make that date, maybe you're waiting on a piece of information from a consultant or a design build firm or something like that, just communicate back and we can, hopefully make some arrangements for that, because, we don't want to have to, go through that full review and approval process again if we don't have to, but so just make sure you're in communication.
Yep, very good. There's also one more question, whether the minor edits feature is now only available to OEM, and the reality is it's always available. This is a new tool for the OEM side of minor edits. The district can always do minor edits exactly the same way you do now, and as a matter of fact, you can go in and you can open a project for minor edits and move it along. It's not replacing or the functionality is not going away at the district level. Matter of fact, that we can see you guys use that extensively, and that's fantastic because it means you guys are going through your QA QCs, which is great. Does anybody else have any other questions? We're doing this for 30 minutes. We got a few minutes left, but we wanted to stay on and make sure that we answered any questions as well. Okay, well, not seeing anything else. Thank you for the time. We're going to go ahead and put this up on our website. And one of the things Gwen asked is, will these types of webinars continue? Yeah, our intent is every time we have a piece of functionality that everyone should know about, we want to do a short little webinar to communicate it, record it, and then make it accessible to folks. And then that way, if you happen to be busy that day, you got an announcement, you know where it's at, and you got a recording, and then you can look at it at your own leisure as well. So that is absolutely the intent. So that being said, thank you for attending. We'll go ahead and put this up on the website. Everybody will receive an email with a link, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Take care. Bye.